baseball began an era where many games were played on an artificial surface.
AstroTurf, it was like a rock. It was like putting down, almost like putting down carpet in your house with a half-inch padding underneath.
Introduced to the world in the Houston Astrodome, AstroTurf quickly became the playing surface of choice for many multi-use stadiums both indoors and outdoors. With its use, words like carpet burn, seams, and dead spots became part of baseball jargon.
When you dive on it, you get carpet burns. The seams come up when they get old. I mean, it was hard to play on.
With advancements in technology, AstroTurf has become a thing of the past. And today, the newest surface lies on the floor of Tropicana Field.
This is the state-of-the-art field turf that's being put in. It's the safest product for our players.
In this edition of Inside the Rays, we'll explore FieldTurf, how it's made.
We essentially have two components that we use, our polyethylene yarns and a primary backing.
How it's installed.
It's like a puzzle. Each roll has a specific place where it goes on the field.
And how it plays.
I don't think I've gotten a bad hot this season.
Inside the Rays, next on FSN Florida. In 2000, the Rays became a leader on the field in a very unique category. Welcome to another edition of Inside the Rays. I'm Todd Callis. During that 2000 year, the Rays became the first baseball team to install a new synthetic grass called FieldTurf. This product would revolutionize sports, making artificial fields play more like natural grass. But in 1998, when the Rays first started out, they played on what was then known as AstroTurf.
It's hard. It's fast. It was hard to play on, but that's what we knew. You know, you go from regular grass field onto AstroTurf.
The old traditional AstroTurf was like concrete. It was like a rock. It was like putting down, almost like putting down carpet in your house with a half-inch padding underneath.
It felt like concrete, you know, definitely wasn't trying to dive for too many balls on that stuff, so it just felt like you was walking on cement.
You would ache every day after the game. I mean, your hamstrings and your back, I mean, it just went through a beating every single day.
It could definitely wear on you, definitely on your legs, on your body, on your back. It was always my lower back for me.
It was a huge physical issue for the players. Significant injuries developed, really hard on the legs, on the back.
I don't think it's meant for baseball, but you know, I guess, you know, you got a roof that doesn't open, you got to have it, but playing on it, it's tough on the legs and the back and everything like that. It's just not meant to be played on.
I remember coach at third base when AstroTurf came in. My legs were tired when we got off an AstroTurf field, just being a coach at third base.
I would always notice a lot of times maybe standing on a field where they had AstroTurf, that my legs would be sore afterwards. Hard underneath, and it just, you know, it just wasn't good for the human body.
It was a tough surface, and when you dive on it, you get carpet burns. The seams come up when they get old. It's very hot to play on day games. It gets bouncy, very bouncy when the heat starts to come around in the summertime.
It would burn your feet. You have to go out there in rubbers. A lot of guys with the rubber cleats, I've seen it burn some of the rubber, where the rubber melted some of the rubber. So it was very uncomfortable playing on.
I can remember days, Cincinnati, when you play a day game there, or St. Louis, just as a civilian walking out pregame, and really the heat coming up off the surface. You could feel it in the bottom of your shoes.
Veterans Stadium was the worst, probably, and I remember, you know, everyone complaining about that. Montreal was awful. Not only was it old, but it wasn't, you know, the maintenance on it wasn't done well either.
Some were better than others. The older they get, you know, they play football in those stadiums too, so it tears it up and they have events in it, and the seams start to crack. There's dead spots in it. You don't know where to bounce. All of a sudden there's a dead spot, and it doesn't come up as high as you think.
There's been a lot of injuries due to AstroTurf. You know, when you're on grass and you make a quick move, the grass will, you know, you might tear up the grass a little bit. But in AstroTurf, you go like that, it almost stops, and I can see why, you know, infielders could twist their legs, or outfielders.
When Inside the Rays returns, the Rays make the switch to FieldTurf.
We had FieldTurf shoot it out with AstroTurf, and it just won hands over.
And later, it's off to Dalton, Georgia, and the FieldTurf manufacturing plant.
This really is not only the carpet capital of the world, but also the turf capital of the world.
Players and fans get a chance to see the results. You're watching Inside the Rays on FSN Florida. Since 1966, when the Houston Astros first installed a new synthetic grass surface known as AstroTurf, at least a dozen baseball stadiums played on that surface. But throughout the years, players had complained about injuries, the heat of the field, the slickness of the turf, so many outdoor stadiums converted to natural grass. That, of course, is not an option here at Tropicana Field or any other dome stadium. And in the year 2000, a new product was introduced, and the Rays were the first to try it.
FieldTurf, I think, is the best product on the market. We took a chance 8 years ago when they were brand new.
Tampa Bay actually was the first major stadium to put in our first-generation artificial turf.
We let the players come out, test it before anyone made a decision, and this one graded out higher than all the others.
It looked good. It played well for a while. Obviously, the ball was quick off the infield.
The old turf hurts your back and all that kind of stuff. It definitely puts more pad in it to where we can feel more comfortable walking around.
In 2007, it was time for another change. Wear and tear on the turf from boat shows, home shows, graduations, and hundreds of baseball games eventually wore down the surface. FieldTurf introduced a new and improved product, and the Rays once again stepped to the plate.
The original product here was called a split film, where through the age of the turf, the fiber, the grass, actually split into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces.
Product that was in here before was basically sheet extruded. It basically was made originally from a sheet of plastic, thereby being flat.
It would lay over, but it could be brushed. But it got so after about 7 or 8 years, we had put so much stuff on it that it was getting tougher and tougher to bring back up.
This product is a Duraspine fiber. It is a very stiff but still soft fiber.
60% of the blades have a spine in them now, so that helps promote the standing up.
What you have are a gazillion independently spine filaments here that'll all be stronger than the flat product that was here previously.
This field is necessary. It was time to make a change and to upgrade. Replacing this field is like turning on the lights and keeping the lights on. It's something you have to do. It's an expense that you have to bear, the one that you're happy to bear because it's the right thing for the players.
This surface plays an awful lot like grass. That's the way it was designed. You won't find anything like the old turf burn.
I think the look is great. I think it's darker. I think it looks more like grass.
We think it's as close as you're going to get to Mother Nature with the infill system and with the Nike grind and the sand.
It's the safest product for our players. It's going to play really true, and for the fans both here at Tropicana Field and also watching on TV, it's going to look as close to grass as possible, and that's what we're going for, that really natural look even though we're inside a dome.
The process to remove the old field turf is simple, yet takes time and the teamwork of a hard-working crew.
To do a job like this, I like to use about 5 guys. You can get them done with about 3, but the guys are really working hard.
Just watching them take it up was inspiring for us.
The weight of the infill is what keeps it in place, so it's not glued down to the concrete. The only places that it's attached are around the edges or around the perimeter. We'll go in there, we'll have the turf cut. We get our grippers on it, which are those little tools with the teeth on it. We'll pull it back 6 or 8 feet, shake out all of the infill so that we have a manageable piece of carpet. So it is a little trial and error in the very beginning. I mean, it took us probably an hour and a half, 2 hours to really figure out what was going to be the best method to remove this. You can't start a roll with infill in it. It's just too rigid, and it's too heavy to even manipulate by hand. So we get the infill out of it, we get the roll started, and then we hook it up to these machines and we start pulling it or pushing it.
They came in here and actually rolled this stuff up. Now that creates another problem, because by keeping all that infill in there, you know, each roll was weighing like about, I think they said 12,000 pounds.
There's not much equipment out there that can handle that because of the weight factor. In most removals, you can only put it in dumpsters or you can put it on trucks, and both of them have weight limits.
Later on Inside the Race, the new generation of FieldTurf makes its debut. But first, before FieldTurf is installed, it must be sewn together in the FieldTurf plant in Dalton, Georgia.
The machines start up, and it's essentially a very large sewing machine. Like your grandmother's Singer, just a little bit bigger and a little bit different.
Welcome back. I'm Todd Callis. For the players and the fans, the FieldTurf is only seen once it's installed. But in reality, the turf begins as hundreds of polyethylene spools of thread in the FieldTurf plant in Dalton, Georgia.
Dalton, Georgia has been known for many, many years as the carpet capital of the world. There are multiple carpet tufting plants. This is really where the knowledge and the industry and where really the materials and the equipment has all been centralized. So really, this really is not only the carpet capital of the world, but also the turf capital of the world. Our plant here in Dalton is approximately 80,000 square feet. We have 9 machines that are in place and running. We have a capacity to hold up about 1.5 to 2 million pounds of yarn at any given time in this facility. Each machine should have about 4 people running it. You got 2 people back in the creel, making sure that the yarn is being replenished as it runs out, making sure if there's any breakouts that they're being tied in and that there's no loss of yarn so that you don't get any empty rows. There's also an operator and a mender. The operators are the ones who are pushing the start and stop, which tends to happen quite often, and the menders are QCing and verifying that the product is coming out the way that it should. All of the yarn that we use is exclusively made from FieldTurf. It's a polyethylene yarn, and they come on spools, about 10 pounds each. At the back of each machine, we have a creel set up, and there are 240 positions on those creels. Each one of those little bobbins has a little tube where an air pressure shoots the yarn up so that it can be grabbed at the top end, strung down around, and through the needles. There are 2 rolls that will be sent through the tufting needles, and it's actually fabric that is sewn through with a needle and a blade and cut out so that at the end of the process you end up with a nice green surface attached to a fabric backing. It's essentially a very large sewing machine, like your grandmother's Singer, just a little bit bigger and a little bit different. These machines can run about 25,000 square feet per 8-hour shifts. So with our 9 machines in place, we can do about 1.8 million square feet of turf in an 8-hour period with all machines running. Each individual roll is labeled and tagged and sent for coating, which is essentially a urethane backing is put on for a tough lock so that the yarn doesn't just come pulling out of the backing once you do the installation. The real time-consuming part of this is making sure that everything is done correctly to specification, the lines are in the right place, and at the end of the day that the customer is getting what they've asked for and what they've paid for.
They've been a great company to work with. We were the first professional team to put it down, and so they told us to push the envelope, and we've had boat shows, home and garden shows, concerts, everything, and the turf just is great.
Over the years, we have been, very detail-oriented and looking for new products and to continue to be at the top of the industry so that we can be at the top of yours.
After the break, the new field turf is installed and the players and fans get a chance to see the results.
110 times better. Just the new stuff is just more giving for you, and I think it takes it's a lot less hard on your body.
This black and white fill material is the last process in the installation of field turf. But before this is put down, there are days and days of pulling, pushing, sewing, and gluing.
We have 11 people here. The main reason is because the weight and the length of these rolls or panels.
Baseball fields can go up to anywhere from a 330-foot roll to a 50-foot roll in the infield where you have very small areas that you need to actually install.
They are about 2,000 pounds apiece. The longest one here was over 340 feet. And basically you have to get those carpet clamps, line up equally spaced apart, and pull your guts up. It's like a puzzle. Each roll has a specific place where it goes on the field, and that's where we put it.
That's the beauty of our process here, is that we can actually determine what exactly is needed for the installation process and essentially build a jigsaw puzzle.
The first panel is laid face up, green side up. The next panel is laid face down. The product is tufted in rows. So you have to line that first tuft row of the down piece with the first tuft row of the up piece perfectly, or plus or minus ¼ inch, to sew that together to get your proper gap. The sewing of the turf, seaming all the seams together. On this field, about 42 of them altogether, seaming them together with a sewing machine. Originally intended for sewing liners together on landfills and things like that. We just adapted it for our use by putting pneumatic tires on it. Each tuft row is tufted in a 3/4 inch gap on this field. The field is tufted in rows. So when you're sewing, you're trying to sew that gap and keep that gap consistent. So once all this field, the turf is stood up and infield, you shouldn't be able to see them.
Generally tuft in most markings as long as they're running the length of the field. However, with baseball, given the shape of the diamond, it's not really possible to tuft a diagonal line across a roll.
It's a white turf compared to the green, and we sheep shear the grass down to a stubble and use a 350-degree epoxy to actually melt and bond the white turf to the green turf backing. After that was the infill process, where we install almost 10 pounds per square foot of the sand and rubber mix.
Sand on the bottom, sand and rubber in the middle, a non-skidding rubber, which is important for baseball, on top.
Slowly build up the field to roughly a 2-inch depth. But you want to do that slowly so you don't trap the grass. So when the finished product is done, it will have an appearance almost like a fringe of a putting green.
Some of the fibers designed to stand straight up, some of the fibers designed to lean, so that the infill is actually encapsulated with fabric. The end result is that you have a field that's going to play the closest like grass to anything other than grass.
This is the best stuff out there. It's used so much in the NFL and in colleges, and we're proud to be the first Major League Baseball stadium to be using this new product.
The fans will think it looks more grass-like. It's a beautiful fabric, especially from the level that the fans are looking at it. All of the different strands standing up.
On April 6, 2007, the Rays debuted their new surface with a game against another dome team, the Toronto Blue Jays.
It played nice. And it's close to what we had before. I think everything, the same concept is the same, but except for little different things where the grains of the grass blades will stand up a lot longer.
And since opening day, having plenty of opportunities to play on the new field turf, the players agree that it does indeed play much more like natural grass.
110 times better. Just the new stuff is just more giving for you, and you know, it's a lot less hard on your body.
You know, I was comfortable diving on the old one, but I definitely will be ready to dive on this turf more than the old one.
You know, I don't think I've gotten a bad hop this season yet, so definitely getting you know, a lot better hops than you might sometimes with the old stuff.
We hope you've enjoyed this look behind the scenes at the new field turf at Tropicana Field. So the next time you come out to a game, take a close look at the field, because now you know what it took to get it looking the way it does. For everybody involved with Inside the Rays, I'm Todd Callis. Thanks for watching.
We have a machine actually that we keep on hand at the plant. We lovingly call Mad Max. It's an accelerated wear tester, and it essentially mimics the action of a cleat running over turf